Hey, here we go. This is some free answers for page 577 to 578, numbers 20 to 44 even. I hope you're watching and ready to see what's going on. This is number 30. So this is all about completing the square. First thing that you should do is get things on the correct side, leaving room for stuff to happen. So I want to get rid of the number here in front of x squared, divide by -3 for everything. And that should give us x squared. And then this is going to be positive now. And I believe that's 4.67. And that's going to equal -4 over there. It's kind of hard to see that. Let's try that again. Doesn't like that part of the screen, apparently. So let's get rid of some of this stuff up here. So now that we've taken care of all of the basic stuff, now it's time to complete the square. Remember, we divide this by 2 first, and that will give us 2 1/3. And I'm right away going to put that here because I know that's what it's going to be at the end. The thing I can't forget is to do the 2.33 squared that I'm going to add to each side, and that's 5.43, and I'm going to add that to both sides. So if I do the 5.43 minus 4, I get 1.43, so that's over here. And that's going to be the square root of that. 1.43. So now I'm going to have, that's 1.19, by the way. So that's where I get the plus or minus. So, positive or negative can make 1.43. And I have that x plus 2.33. If I take the square root of both sides, that's how I get this stuff. And I'm going to move that right away. So I moved it from right here to the other side, from a positive to a negative. Negative 2.33 plus or minus 1.19. So I think if I do negative 2.33 plus 1.19, I'm going to get negative 1.14, or if I get 2.33 plus 1.19, thinking that they are both negative, I'm going to get negative 3.52. And those should be the answers for number 30. So there you go. We'll go through the next ones, and then you'll see how those work too. Let me clear everything off. All right, so this is number 32. This is about the triangle and finding what x is. So you have the area of a triangle. That is base times height divided by 2. And so we have the base of x plus 8. We have the height of x, and then the area it gives you is 45. So that means I should be able to get this to look like the other stuff we've been doing. And all I did was multiplied the x times the x plus 8 distributive property, and then multiply both sides by 2. And now I can start doing my regular stuff. I think I'm going to end up with x plus 4 because I'm dividing this by 2. So I know I'm going to end up with that. I have to remember that I take that 4 and square it, and I get that. So I should have 106. So x plus 4 squared equals 106. To make a shortcut here, I know I'm going to take the square root of both sides. I'm going to get x plus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 106, which is 10.3. So I need to clean some stuff up. Okay, so again, I should be able to do this. -4 plus or minus 10.3. So if they're both negative, I'm going to get -14.3. And I think if that 10.3 is positive, I'm going to get 6.3. So this is one of those times when you think, oh, how can you have one of the dimensions of the triangle being negative? Well, it doesn't really matter. You're only supposed to find x. This is x. But if you notice, this number is 8 more. So it does work. That does give you x. That is number 32. On to number 34. So this one asked for the product of two consecutive even integers and find the integers. So you have your one number is x. And if they're both even, then the next one couldn't just be x plus 1. It'd have to be x plus 2. So again, you're going to end up with x squared plus 2x equals 224. And I know if I divide this by 2, I'm going to get x plus 1, which is going to end up like that. I need to know that 1 squared is the plus 1 I add to both sides, and I'm going to get 225. So square root of both sides, I'm going to get x equals -1, because that's moving to the other side, plus or minus the square root of 225, which is the magical number of 15. So I'm pretty sure that -1 plus 15 is 14. And -1 minus 15 is -16. So you get these weird numbers because it says the product of two consecutive even integers is 224. So I'm pretty sure that these two numbers are 14 and 16. And if I do 14 times 16, I do get 224. But then you also notice that you get -14 times -16. So it could be either one. There is number 34. From number 36, they ask you to find the area of the triangle below, which initially is a little confusing because you think it has something to do with that 30, and it kind of does, sort of, but really all they give you is that length is 30, and you need to figure out the area. The only way to find out the area is to figure out what x is. So we do know this. We know that if we use the Pythagorean theorem, we get x squared plus x plus 6 squared equals 30 squared, which I'm going to shortcut to 900. So to extend this a little bit, this is the part that is the tricky part, because I'm just doing the FOIL method on this. So now I have 2x squared, 12x, and I'm going to move that 36 to the other side. I believe that is 864. So hopefully you remember how to get the FOIL method with that and where we're going with this. If I divide everything by 2, I get x squared, 6x, and 432. Okay, everything hopefully looking pretty good. All right, so now I'm pretty sure it's going to be x plus 3 squared equals, and let's see, what was it? So I'd have to add 9 to both sides. 441 square root of both. And let's see, 441 square root is a nice 21. So it's going to be plus or minus. And I know, again, this is going to the other side. So it's -3 plus or minus 21. Now remember, we're looking for area, not just what x is. So we can't just do this and say, ooh, 18 and 24. I know this is -24, but still, if I look at the numbers in the diagram, 18 and 24 go together very well. So now that I have 18 and 24, now I can say 18 times 24 divided by 2 is going to equal the area. Or in other words, 9 times 24. And that gives me an area of 216. And doesn't say something squared. There you go. All right, so in this one, I already moved, this is number 38, by the way. I already moved the 2x from the right side to the left, and there you go. We do need to get rid of that number in front of x squared. It's 0.5, which means half, so I'm just going to multiply everything times 2, and I'll get x squared minus 4x equals -0.6. There you go. And now it's just pretty much straightforward. All the others, 40 and 42 that I'll run through also, they all do the same thing. They work out really nicely if you just use some multiplication. So I think I'm going to get x minus 2 squared, and that would be a +4 to both sides, +4. Let's see. So +4 minus 0.6, that's going to be a positive 3.4. So again, I'm going to need to do, if I do my shortcut, move the 2 over here, plus or minus the square root of that, because I already did the square root of that. So 3.4 square root, that's 1.84. So it's 2 plus or minus 1.84. So I know I'm going to get 3.84 for one of the answers. And what would that be, 0.16 if I subtracted? So I believe those are the two answers that you get for 38. Now this one initially looks pretty ugly, but if you multiply by the reciprocal for each of these things, let's see if it gets any better. Cancel, 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 cancel. I'll have x squared minus, cancel, cancel, 1, 2, 2x. I like it already. 1, 2, I believe that's 5/4. So I know if I cut that in half, x minus 1 squared, that means I'm going to have to add 1 to both sides. So 5/4 is 1.25, so that's equal to 2.25. X minus 1 squared equals 2.25. All right, so if I take the square root of both sides and realize that I'm going to end up moving that to the other side, I'll get x equals 1 plus or minus 2.25 square root minus 1.5. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have an answer of 2.5, 1 plus 1.5, and 1 minus 1.5 would be -0.5. That one worked out really well, especially after getting rid of the fraction, so not bad. Okay, 42. Looks like I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. Cancel, 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 x squared. Cancel, cancel, that's 5x. And cancel, cancel, 1/2. All right, well, this one's not as pretty because you end up with this 5/2, which, not a big deal because you're going to add the square of that, 25/4, to both sides. 25/4. So 25 fourths is 6.25 plus a half would be 6.75. All right, so negative 5 halves, again, moving this to the other side, and then plus or minus the square root of 6.75. 6.75 square root, 2.6. Now, negative 2 so that's like negative 2.5. Negative 2.5 plus or minus 2.6. So if I just add them together, I should get an answer of 0.1. If I subtract them, negative 5.1. There you go. That is number 42, just one left. So this is the one that's backwards. This is the one that they wanted to know, what numbers could you put in for C that will make this a perfect square? So it's like, what number there, if you divide it in half and square it, would give you this? Well, so the backwards thing is, I know that this, if I take the square root, is 10. And if I had divided something in half, it would have to be 20. So that number there could be 20, or of course it could be negative 20. If you look at number 45, they put the number 225 there. And if I put in 225 and do the square root, I get 15. And if you think about the same thing, well, what number would I have cut in half to get this? It would be 30 or negative 30. All right, so just one more thing. If you think about the steps for doing any of these, and there was one of them on the assignment that was like no solution, but if I just pick one like number 28, where I have 4x squared minus 10x equals negative 5. If you think about the steps we're using, we're saying all x's together. That's like step 1, get all x's together. And then the next step is no number before x squared. Those are your first two steps. If you want to write these down in your notes, that'd be a great idea. Get all your x's together on the same side. And number 2 is no number before x squared. So that means we're going to do the division. All right, let me do that, and then we'll continue on the steps. So I just divided everything by 4 to get what I have, just so you aren't confused about where I got this. Step 3 now is divide. Oh, that's a nice way to spell divide. Divide b by 2. So remember, this number right here in front of the x, that's b. We're dividing that by 2, which in this case is going to give me 1.25. Same thing as over there. Interesting. 1.25. Then step 4 is square that number. Square, I'm going to put square and add to both sides. All right, so I divided b by 2 to get 1.25, and then I squared that and added it to both sides. Now, I believe we're in step 5. Step 5 is the parentheses, or just for sake of writing, the brackets squared. So now, that's the way to remember is, now that I know I divided by 2, it's going to be, not going to be that. It's going to be that. X minus 1.25 squared, because I remembered there's a negative there. X minus 1.25 squared, and that's going to equal this 1.56 minus 1.25. And I'm pretty sure that that's interesting, 0.31. So I don't know the best way for you to write this in your notes, the brackets squared. I mean, that's what I do is I go, oh yeah, we've got that 1.25. That's going to be right here, negative 1.25 squared. And that's what we've got now. Step 6 is square root of both sides. So that's going to give me x minus 1.25 equals, and you might want to write yourself a note for that plus or minus thing. So it's going to be plus or minus the square root of 0.31. So 0.31 square root is 0.56. So we took the square root of both sides and remembered to add the plus or minus. So I wrote this down and didn't hit record, so we'll go back over it. So step 7, the final step, is move the number and solve. So that's where I moved the negative 1.25 right here to positive 1.25 and then added those together. So I did 1.25 plus 0.56 to get 1.81, 1.25 minus 0.56 to get 0.69. So hopefully you have those steps written down in your notes and everything will be good, and we'll move on Tuesday. So any other questions, make sure you let me know.